Welcome to Haunted Utah. This list of 10 is part of a playlist of gentle listening spooky collections from across the USA. The screen fades to black so you can enjoy the stories without distractions if relaxing, studying or wanting to sleep. Please do consider a like and subscribe if you enjoy this type of content. First is the ghost of Antelope Island State Park. It's thought to be haunted by a local gravedigger who was exiled there in 1862 for robbing over 300 graves. I suppose the best place to look for a grave robber would be the gravedigger himself. That was the case with Jean Baptiste, who had a good little earner going at the cemetery he was employed at. The caskets would be lowered and he would fill in the hole with topsoil, but he'd go back, dig out the hole again and steal everything of value from the dead person. If anyone was to see him doing it, well, he was the cemetery gravedigger, so nobody would say anything. His antics were, though, discovered when a family wanted to move their deceased relative to another plot. The casket was opened, and the body was found to be naked and upside down. A skeleton with shackles on its ankles was found in the state park, but authorities claimed Jean-Baptiste was never shackled when he was exiled. That's another mystery to explore. At number 2 is Winter Quarters, a ghost town with a spooky history. It used to be a booming mining town in the 1800s, employing hundreds of mine workers and featuring what was supposed to be the safest mine in the whole state. It was indeed the safest, until it wasn't. In 1900 there was a massive explosion that killed 225 men, the worst mining disaster to ever strike the USA up to that point. And speaking of strikes, that's what 500 men did when a headless ghost kept being seen down in the mine. 50 men actually quit because of the ghost. There were other problems to do with strange events that union bosses brought forward as complaints. They included strange noises from inside the mine and mysterious blue lights that were seen in the cemetery. The mine didn't last much longer, and neither did Winter Quarters as a town. Third on our list is another Utah ghost town that didn't just fail, it also got wrapped up in the supernatural. That place is Home of Truth, a town in San Juan County. Home of Truth was founded by Marie Ogden, who wanted to bring her religious beliefs to the area and form a town based on them. Nice and wholesome, you might think. However, those beliefs were based in the occult. By 1935, she'd got 100 followers living there in Home of Truth, and the population was expanding. All looked great for what had been an ignored group of people because they kept themselves to themselves and followed a strict code of conduct. That was until a woman died of cancer, and one of the townspeople, Edith Penshack, decided she could revive the woman from the dead. Edith said she was in contact with the deceased woman's spirit, so instead of burying the dead woman, kept her topside, you might say, until she could be resurrected. The body was still around after 4 months, which was when police turned up to look at what was going on. It was apparently in a very good condition, but still as dead as it ever was. They didn't press charges, considering there was nothing really wrong about not burying a person immediately. But word got out about the strange town, and Home of Truth began to lose its population. By 1937, there were just 7 residents left. And number 4 is the Nunnery in Logan. The Nunnery used to be known as St. Anne's Retreat, and from 1959 was where the Catholic diocese would send their nuns for a rest, like a simple vacation spot. Or was it that simple, and was that the real reason for nuns being sent there? Legend says something different, that the nuns were sent there when they became pregnant, and needed to be hidden away from the public. The resulting babies, and allegedly some of the nuns were, how to term this, disposed of in grisly ways. These days you might well hear babies crying out in the night and see nuns wandering around the grounds in the dark. That is, if you can get close to the buildings, which became vandalised and run down. The Catholic Church sold the site in 1993 and now it's privately owned. Halfway through the list we have the Brigham Young farmhouse in Salt Lake City. Built in 1863, the house was moved in the middle of the last century to its current spot in the old Deseret village. This was the home of one of Utah's most famous people, the creator of the Mormon religion, Brigham Young. And it seems like he's still walking around the rooms of his former house. When seen, he's said to be elderly, in his 70s, and walks with a cane. He does seem to be friendly and merely ambles around the house. Also, several of his many wives are said to still be there. Wife number 2 is said to manifest in the kitchen, often accompanied by the smell of cooking food. Reports are that children can be heard playing upstairs, and Brigham Young's son, John, is also still around in the house. One account from the 1950s is of a guest at the house taking a photo of John thinking he was a reenactor dressed in period clothes. When the photo was developed, the man was missing from the picture. And number 6 is Wind Cave in Logan Canyon. The cave is in fact 2 limestone arches that meet to form what looks like a cave entrance, with a hole at the top. In high winds it howls like some kind of banshee, and is why the cave is sometimes known as the Witch's Castle. Hecate is that witch, who has 2 ghostly dogs beside her. You might invoke the witch if you go to the Spring Hollow campgrounds just over the highway and chant her name. She may appear with her 2 dogs. She is said to be able to make car engines fail. One man claims to have had his engine die in the middle of the canyon road, only to look up and see an old woman in a grey cloak staring back at him. She passed by his car, and his engine came back to life, but as she drove away, he made sure to stay well behind the witch until she disappeared from sight. On dark nights in Logan Canyon, if you hear that screaming sound from the cave, you too might think it's more than just the wind. At spot number 7 is Benson Grist Mill in Stansbury Park. There's a very popular thought among ghost hunters that running water amplifies spirit energy. Well, the Benson Grist Mill features a full-on, full-sized water wheel. Built in 1864 to process corn and wheat, the mill remained in operation until the 1940s when it was shut down. It was then restored in the 1980s by volunteers. Today, 3 ghosts reportedly haunt the mill, including a 6-year-old girl. Little Aris Irene Solomon drowned in the reservoir behind the mill and is claimed to join students in the nearby school's classrooms to throw chalk at visitors. Nobody's seen her, but along with the chalk being thrown is a young girl's laughter. A shadowy black adult figure has also been seen out on the bridge near the drowning site, giving rise to a story that Alice was actually killed by a man. His spirit is also said to be on the 2nd floor, where he is angry and will touch visitors. The 3rd ghost is a woman dressed in white, which kind of makes sense when thinking about a flour mill. Anyway, she never leaves the 3rd floor, just normally stands in a doorway and calls out to visitors. However, sometimes she steps out onto the balcony, where she's been seen waving to passing cars. And number 8 is the Devereaux Mansion in Salt Lake City. The mansion was built in 1865 by pioneer William Staines. From 1904 to 1912 it was used as a retreat for people battling addictions such as opium and cocaine. It was also a home for those suffering from nervousness, which can't have been helped by seeing ghosts in the mansion. One of which is a 5-year-old girl who is dressed in 1850s clothes. She's reported to drift through several rooms. Her spirit is also said to move kitchen objects and sometimes turns lights on and off while kitchen staff are working. Some people have said they've seen her in an upstairs window waving to them or singing to herself. The 2nd ghost, perhaps a former head housekeeper, is not so comfortable with intruders. She appears when she feels the home needs protecting. Witnesses have said she becomes quite aggressive when she confronts visitors and has been known to throw things. The Devereaux Mansion was abandoned and stood vacant for decades before being nearly destroyed by a fire in 1979. It's since been restored and now serves as a meeting space for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but the ghosts remain. For number 9 is another haunted mansion in Salt Lake City, the McCoon Mansion on Main Street. For the best chance of spotting the ghost there, it's a good idea to visit around Christmas. That's when a man in a black cape is often seen. He's said to manifest in the mirrors. You might see him behind you in the mirror's image. Another ghost is of a child, a 10-year-old girl, who prefers to show herself at the wedding events hosted there. She's been seen many times dancing and giggling. You can recognise her from her picture, which is hanging in the home. The 21-room McCoon Mansion was built for railroad tycoon Alfred McCoon in the early 20th century at a truly frightening cost of $1 million. It is considered among the grandest of American homes built around that time. When McCoon and his family moved to California, they gave the house to the Latter-day Saints Church, which then used it as a music school. That might explain why visitors sometimes hear an organ playing when no one is around. Finally, and as is becoming popular for these lists, the last one is a bit, well, weird. It's the Escalante Petrified State Forest State Park, which features petrified wood rather than ghosts, but that petrified wood seems to carry a curse. Many people have picked up pieces of wood from the park and then sent it back, addressed to park rangers and complete with a deeply felt apology. One person wrote that he had the most disastrous year since taking the piece of wood, which was included inside the package he sent back. He said he'd experienced 3 accidents, 5 broken bones, a motorhome fire, and a busted car engine. Lots of similar letters are on display at the visitors centre, and rangers say they receive about a dozen such letters every year. Thank you for joining me on this little journey. From a frightening witch to petrified wood, Utah has some great stories and tales from within the state. I hope you'll be here for the next one. Vermont.